I'm back. This is probably gonna be short. I don't plan on this being long since it's Saturday, Saturday night, and it's the first weekend of summer, so I'm pretty sure everyone has better things to do than watch a live stream. I hope so. Anyway, my voice is a little hoarse again. I did my run earlier in 100-degree weather, so voice might be a little bit parched. And since it's a Saturday evening, I don't have any strong topic to discuss, so this will be our random day. Which I do every week. Is do like a random question day. So today will be that day. You know, it's the first weekend of summer, so just interested in what people did for so far for the weekend, or whatever questions people might have. This is random ask me a question day. What's up, J.A.C? And of course, I'll have the background music as usual. I'll probably be drinking a lot of water because, again, I'm dehydrated from my run earlier. It was 100 degrees literally. Yesterday, I talked a little bit about philosophy as far as looking at if any of the religious figures, the people who founded many of these structured religions, could be considered philosophers. And for the most part, I think we can say no. My run, it depends. When it's hot, it's usually much longer. Like it took me well over an hour to run today because it was pretty hot. I just couldn't burn myself out in 100-degree weather. Um, Plus, there's a lot of hills too, so that slows me down. So it took me over an hour to finish my run. What's up, James St. Patrick? um, any, for new people, just be forewarned. If you're trolls, I'm just gonna block you. I'm not gonna respond. Just block you from this channel. Um, and I'm not answering personal questions about myself today. I've done it literally every stream. So if you still don't know, then that's your problem. If you want to know, then you'll drop a cash app. So just so I don't know. It's because a lot of people are retarded. So instead of most people having like 1,000 other better things to do, they jump on the live stream with a person they don't even know or watched any of their content in the past and think they can get a rise out that person. I can't explain it. I just think they're personally people of below average intelligence. And I thought maybe it was just like younger people, but no, it's adults too. Already banned one person. Tyrone Malone says, "What's up, homie? Shout out from Australia. What's up, Tyrone?" Shan said, "What's up, player?" The guy with the fake name from Power is gone. This idiot is gone. I don't know why these people think I'll actually like answer them because I'm not getting paid to do this, so I have no obligations to talk with below average intelligence people. J.A.C said Toronto ranked number one for worst traffic in North America, surpassing LA. If it's worse than LA, that is bad. I mean, over here we have bad traffic as well. DC used to be pretty bad. I know Philly was pretty bad. New York City was pretty bad. LA, when I was out there, the traffic wasn't as bad. Well, I mean, I wasn't that much on their highway, their beltway, whatever they call their beltway system, but uh, it wasn't that bad at the time. Yeah, Tyrone, they're looking for reaction, but I just blocked them. I don't bother talking to people below me. But so, like I predicted a few days ago, because earlier this week it was Juneteenth, which falls on June 19th. And it's a holiday within the Black community, although it's not as universally celebrated as some of the other holidays. But it is a federal holiday, so people get the day off. And I thought, probably there'll be cookouts and stuff like that. I didn't see any cookouts. I didn't smell any grills or anything on Juneteenth, which I was kind of surprised. So I thought, well, maybe it's because Juneteenth fell on a Wednesday, and for a lot of people, that's just inconvenient because, you know, it's the middle of the week, and then the very next day, after being a glutton and maybe having a few too many beers, then you expect to go right back to work again. So a lot of people probably didn't do cookouts for that very reason, or any get-togethers. So I did expect there to be like maybe like several cookouts going today and maybe tomorrow to make up for people not being able to really celebrate Juneteenth on Wednesday because it's just inconvenient for most people. And so far I think I was right. I've seen several cookouts today when I went for a run, whereas I saw no cookouts Wednesday, none. And I had my thoughts on Juneteenth, but I've shared some of that a few days ago, but I'm not going to retread that. But what about you? You folks, have you guys done any cookouts, family get-togethers? And I don't mean just for Black people. I'm talking about for anyone because it's the first weekend of the summer. So whether you celebrate Juneteenth or not, some people were probably likely to, you know, start up the grill. But I didn't. I barely ate that much today. I might eat a little something this evening, but yeah, I didn't really partake in any cookouts or grilling, picnics, eating outside, nothing of the sort. Unfortunately. Plus, it was like 100 degrees. Like I said, it was like 100 degrees outside. So, and I mean literally 100 degrees. GJC says, "I'm sorry to say I never really knew about Juneteenth until this year." That's no issue. That's not a. I mean, it's not. Even though it's a federal holiday, it's not a important holiday for most people. And unless you're like in that pro-black space, then a lot of people just wouldn't really be that fervent about it. So plus it's also plus I don't take seriously the person who made it a federal holiday. So that's probably another issue. But yeah, I think more people would have celebrated actually just if it didn't fall on a Wednesday. So that kind of messed things up. And some places weren't even honoring the holiday, depending on where you work, where you live. Some places weren't even honoring the holiday, and I'm talking about like government as well, not just um, private uh, businesses and stuff. There were even some government agencies that were trying to not let people off for that day. And that's a shame because whether you like it or not, if it's a federal holiday, it's a federal holiday. Well, yeah, J.A.C, Canada's not going to have it. It's an American holiday. It's about the release of black slaves in Galveston, Texas, months after slaves were officially freed by the end of the Civil War. This is a this is a strictly American holiday. So, um, it's Chimera says they just arrested Gabe Horn in Toronto, and I guess this person thought that my English would be bad enough that I would spell like enunciate it the way they thought they could get me to say it, but that shit doesn't work on me. Try that on someone who speaks worse English. Try that on someone who major wasn't linguistics. Then maybe you can get them to say it in the way that you thought your dumb troll ass could do it. So anyway, if I'm just getting nothing but trolls, I'll probably end this soon because I can go find something else to eat. Um, but I don't really care about people um, with the trolling stuff. But yeah. Anyway, like I was saying, Juneteenth is a particularly American holiday, just like July the 4th, or it's sometimes referred to as Black Independence Day. Um, but just like July the 4th and many other uh, very specific American holidays, it only applies to us. So. J.A.C, that person was just trying to troll. He he thought he could get me to pronounce those two words to make it sound like. So yeah, that shit doesn't work. Again, I'm not. These trolls think people are just as stupid as they are. But he was trying to get me to enunciate it in a way that made it sound funny. It didn't work. Anywho, like I said, just trying to ascertain if people are taking advantage of the weekend because it's the first weekend of the summer, and the summer came in with a bang with hot ass weather. At least here on the in the East Coast, it came in with a bang. And then another thing is, so we had another troll that tried to do the exact same thing. When they spell these things out, they don't realize I have a a northeast accent, so it's not going to come out the way they want it to sound. They are probably from some little podunk area of of middle boondocks America where they talk country, so those sorts of words would be mispronounced all the time by them. That shit doesn't work on me. Besides that, again, I've watched The Simpsons since it first came out in 1989, and even before that, when it was just a skit on the Tracy Ullman show on Fox. So I'm quite familiar with Bart Simpson calling up to Moe's Tavern and tricking Moe into asking for someone under a goofy name just to get him to say something off off the cuff that everyone could laugh to. Again, these idiots are probably Gen Zers and they're retarded. Like Gen Zers aren't kind of stupid, kind of effeminate, don't really have any respect for them, and I'll stand on that because they have the lowest of all the previous generations of males. They have the lowest the lowest testosterone levels, and we know from cognitive science that we see a reverse Flynn effect, which is showing that people nowadays are doing worse on IQ tests than they were 40 years ago. So after each generation, when they had to renormalize the tests for people who were doing better on them, now they have to renormalize the tests for people who are doing worse on them, because these kids are fucking stupid and they're fucking effeminate, and they think they can trick me with something that we were doing 30 years ago. So fuck them. Them and their little stupid little single baby mothers who should have fucking just slurped them up. Because I guarantee none of them have fathers. So yeah, that's my rant on Gen Z. So I probably lost that crowd in my analytics. I don't care. Fuck them. Bunch of fanukes. Had to watch what I was gonna say. About to get monetized, so gotta watch those words. But yeah, they're a bunch of little fanukes. If you know, you know. That's the way you can say it without triggering the algorithm. Say it in Italian. Burton Powell said they're being trained, not taught. Probably. But anyway, back to, like I said, today is like, ask me any random question. Because like I said, I do this every week because people always ask me random questions every topic I give, and I'll say, well, this is not the focus of that day, so I was like, ask me that another day, or wait till the day where I do like random topics, and they never do. They never come back on that given day. Um, or I say, hey, if you really have a burning question to ask me now, go ahead and drop a cash app, and I'll answer the question. Again, they don't do that either, which is kind of by design. It's my way of shutting people up. Like, hey, if you really got a burning question, you'll drop a cash app. But if not, then you'll just shut up. So it pretty much works because, like I said, I know behavioral science. So, BSK said critical thinking. What trumps that? Other than a lot of money, not much. And even a lot of money doesn't, because I won't say which family member, but he tried to make fun of me once on my Facebook timeline, saying you need to stop talking all that poor man's logic. He's like, has that resulted in you making a lot of money or whatever? And I was like, well, being that you are an actual lawyer, you should actually appreciate critical thinking skills, and it's not just poor man's logic. Plus, it's not a matter of making a lot of money, it's about making better decisions and judgments. Come to find out, this same family member who tried to deride me about poor man's logic when I'm talking about critical thinking skills is the same family member lawyer who was disbarred. So maybe critical thinking skills could have saved him his fucking career, because I know if I spent as much money as he did going to law school and teaching law, um, and starting my own firm with a partner, I would probably want to have the reasoning and decision making skills that I can be a successful lawyer and not get disbarred from my profession. So that's all I'll say about that. Kelly says a lot of people that become an expert in one field overestimate their abilities in other fields. Absolutely, it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Um, And here's the thing: the Dunning-Kruger effect affects everyone. So, because most people they thought the Dunning-Kruger effect only applies to people who are of below average intelligence, who, unfortunately, because of the cognitive blind sight that comes with being below average intelligence, can't see that they're below average intelligence. So these are the people who always scream the loudest that they're so smart, when it's obvious to everyone else that they aren't. But Dunning Kruger um, can affect any sort of competence, not just intelligence. One of the biggest examples of the Dunning Kruger effect, how it affects a lot of people, is that most people, if you ask them about their driving abilities, most people think they're above average drivers. But just as a matter of statistics, we know that's not true. Most people are average drivers. So to think that you're an above average driver when that's not meted out by the numbers shows that you are suffering from the Dunning-Kruger effect. So that's just one like non-controversial example of the Dunning-Kruger effect. But it happens in a lot of things where people have a lack of competence in some sort of field, and they don't know that they lack that very competence in that field. But what you're also talking about as well, Kelly, is the the is another fallacy. So the Dunning-Kruger effect is a psychological phenomenon, cognitive bias or whatever. But that's also related with what you're saying to the fallacy known as the appeal to expertise, the irrelevant appeal to expertise. So you'll have someone who's maybe like an expert in physics or something like that, and because of that, people look at them for their opinions on just about everything that has nothing to do with physics. We see that with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like, he definitely does that all the time. Like, he is not very knowledgeable in many things outside of his field, but he'll talk about things like he's an expert in all sorts of things on his podcast and on his annoying Twitter feed. Um, or a classic example is the guy, I think he was a chemist, Linus Pauling, or Paul Linus, whatever the guy's name. He actually won a Nobel Award in chemistry, or let me try to remember that correctly. But he believed that vitamin C could cure colds and stuff like that. He was just completely wrong, and he had no training in that field to be using his expertise in physical science to talk about vitamin C curing colds and sicknesses. So that's another example of the irrelevant appeal to expertise, which is a very widespread logical fallacy, as well as the Dunning-Kruger effect. By the way, guys, Mrs. Contrarian is in a rural province of the Philippines today called Banoi. I think that's how you pronounce it. So she's actually going to go see the this Philippine elder named Wang Ad. If you've ever heard of her, she's allegedly 107 years old, and she does tattoo art. So she still does tattoos and stuff like that. And originally, I had told my wife last year, I was like, "Oh, we should go do that," and she didn't really want to get a tattoo, and she doesn't have any already. And I was telling her, I was like, "Well, you should get it," but then I was like, "Yeah, actually, I don't want you to get one. That's." I said, "No, that's good." But then today she was saying, "Well, I'm going to go see Wayne Oz." She's like, "I think I might get it." I was like, "Nah, don't do it." I was like, "I prefer having a wife this that has no ink on her, because I use that to brag, to say, hey, I don't have a Western woman who's full of body art." So um so we'll see. But she's in the province now, but she lost signal because it's a very rural province in the Philippines. It's not the best, does not have the best architecture for internet or best infrastructure for internet. So as soon as she's back in somewhere where she can receive signals, she's gonna give me an update. But yeah, the guy's name I was talking about who thought vitamin C could cure like cancer. He thought it could cure like colds and even cancer. Was his name was uh, Linus Pauling, and he was like a chemist, biochemist, chemical engineer, peace activist, author, and educator. So he was a very talented and very smart man. He won a Nobel Award, but he stepped out of his own expertise and gave people bad advice. So that's just an example. Uh, BS cases, infrastructure and agriculture. Everything else is less crucial, even medical science. No, medical science is very important because if it wasn't for medical science, a lot of us wouldn't have made it past our infancy or through childhood. I had PKU. I wouldn't have made it through childhood because until it was discovered in the 70s, people weren't treated for it. It led to first it would lead to severe retardation, then it led to early death. So I wouldn't have made it to this stage of life without the advances in medical science. So I think that I don't know if you can choose one over the other. You need infrastructure for society, you need agriculture to feed the people, and you need medical science to ensure that people live. So I don't think it's one over the other there. Um, Kelly says Jordan Peterson is a great example. He feels empowered to speak on many things that he has no knowledge of. Yeah, I agree. I actually said that yesterday in a stream. Like I said, I do respect Jordan Peterson as a clinical psychologist. Um, and a lot of the red pill stuff that he talks about, I think, is spot on. But he does step out of his field of expertise way too much, and he'll just be wrong. Like when he tries to talk about philosophy, he's just wrong. Like he goes on to these rants about Karl Marx. Mind you, I don't even like Karl Marx. I think he was a mediocre philosopher at best. But that doesn't mean that just because he was a mediocre philosopher that people can just kind of give a straw man of what he said. Because whether we like Marx or not, he was still one of those pivotal figures in the 19th century that changed the course of how we think, how we thought about society when he brought up the history of class struggles and stuff like that. Just like with Freud, like Freud is not considered highly within psychological science, but we still have to give him his due credit for the way he changed the course of scientific psychology in the in the early 19th to the late 19th to early 20th century. But Jordan Peterson definitely can speak a lot of nonsense sometimes, to put it nicely. Hawaiian Wood says everything transfer, it's all process. Not sure what that means. BSK says, i.e., the pipeline, all transportation, refinery, electrical, communication, etc. Like I said, I don't think you can put one over the other. I think all three that you mentioned are extremely important within their own respective domains. We need infrastructure for the continuation of modern society, right? Um, which which is largely dependent on men, even though men are shitted on in Western culture. If it, if men just decided fuck the infrastructure and went to do their own thing, the society would crumble within like a few weeks, at maybe a few months at best. But within a few weeks to a few months, Western society would crumble because women can't handle some of those jobs. How often do you see them on these oil rigs or doing the stuff in like sewage and stuff like that? And when I say and when I'm talking about like sewage and stuff like that, I'm not talking about like just trash and all that. It's people who work in that field know all of the technology that goes into maintaining that, and just the sheer manpower that it takes to do some of these jobs that run infrastructure is important, right? But also, like I said, agriculture is really big. A lot of that is actually supplied by, and I hate to say it, but a lot of illegal migrants are used to do a lot of work in agriculture. Then, like I said, medical science. Like I said, if it weren't for medical science, I and a bunch of other people wouldn't be here today. So it's still very important. Hawaiian Woods says AI is solving things we haven't right now. Not really. AI is solving the things that we've taught it to solve. Um, so we don't have strong AI yet, and I actually gave a reason for that in my last live stream yesterday when I talked about strong AI can only come about once philosophers give the solution to the human AI problem, which haunts AI research, which is why we don't have strong AI yet, because they still haven't bridged the human AI problem, which involves a type of global human reasoning that we all do very easily, but can't be replicated in formal language, which is abductive reasoning. Um, but yeah, guys, like I said, the trolls are funny because, like I said, most of them are young. Because, like I said, I don't know how they keep thinking I'm gonna pronounce something. And like I said, Bart Simpson was doing that back in 1990. This is similar to why parents laugh, have that little knowing smirk on their face when their kid try to pull something on them, and the parents like, yeah, I was doing this when I was a kid too. Like, it's the same thing with these little idiot Gen Z trolls. It's like, dude, we were doing this long time before you. We invented it. So, I mean, we had entire TV shows where like the Crank Yankers, and before that, what was it? The something boys, I forgot the show, the something boys, where they would just call and crank, they would just crank call people, or we used to do it to each other. Like, we were crank, like, I'm pretty sure some of the older guys, like, y'all remember uh crank calling friends and stuff like that. So none of this stuff is new under the sun. So I can't answer how you can get a girlfriend. I'm not a relationship expert. I suggest maybe you get offline and improve your social skills. Actually go up to women and talk with them. That is risky in Western culture, but it is still the best way. Trial and error. That's what we did when we were younger. We didn't have the advantages of the internet. You go out and, you know, you go out and you talk with women. You say, hi, my name is such and such. I just saw you from afar and thought you were cool. Like, I was wondering if you'd be interested in, maybe us hanging out sometime, doing something, whatever, whatever, whatever. Learn, get some game. That's what I gotta say. You want a woman, it doesn't, whether it's a black girlfriend, white girlfriend, Asian girlfriend, Latino girlfriend, doesn't matter. Develop your develop your people skills. It only comes through trial and error by actually getting out there and talking to women. But again, I'm no relationship expert, so I can't give you like like really um, specific advice on that. Other than a lot of people today have lost their social skills, and go to places where you might find those women. So, go to the gym, plenty of women. Um, a lot of women complain that they go to these social events and there's not a lot of guys there. So for the guys who are there, they're probably, they would probably be up on their game right there, because they're already in a place where they have more access to these women, and it's a lot less competition, because like I said, a lot of guys have just checked out of the dating scene, and I don't blame them. If I were still single, I would do the same thing. Like, I would just be using my passport, going overseas, and not worrying about women here. But there's plenty of women, good women here too. So, like I said, just trial and error, just talking to women, using, so you can develop those social skills that we were forced to do, like, when we were teenagers. Because like I said, I didn't have Facebook and MySpace and Twitter and Friendster and all those other things until like college. And by that time, I was already forced to learn how to talk with women. Like, the scariest thing to do was like to approach them at the mall, like as a teenager, because usually they were always in a group, so that was already scary in itself. But even if they were alone, you were scared. What if I get rejected? Whatever, whatever. But you just had to have some tough skin and just go out there and do it. So that's all I can say about that. J.A.C says, met my wife at work. People gotta stop looking at their phones and enjoy the world around them. Absolutely. It. I mean, I'm actually kind of jealous that people have like such easy access to people 24/7 that we didn't enjoy back in the day. Like, especially because I moved around so much that I lost contact with a lot of good friends throughout my childhood, because you know I moved from like Maryland to Illinois, and then from Illinois moved from different cities within Illinois, then moved back to Maryland, just to then to go live in Pennsylvania and Delaware, then moved back to Maryland, and then within Maryland moved to the DC suburbs of Maryland, and pretty much stayed there until after college. And outside of being in the army, and then being back here in the Baltimore area, throughout my childhood and teenage years, it'd have been great to have like social media to stay in contact with all these folks. And it definitely would have made dating easier as well. Like, being able to get an Uber before I had a driver's license, that'd have been cool. Um, yeah, I'm envious of people how easy they have it. I mean, they even got Tinder. Like, people can just like in college and places like that, they can just find someone on Tinder who's like right next door, or live in the same dorm, and just swipe right on them, and then they just hook up the very same day. The closest thing we had to that was like going to a campus party and connecting after a campus party and getting it on after the campus party. But but yeah, I think a lot of people just lack the basic social skills to go out and meet people. And a lot of these social media apps want you dependent on them. That's why they make it so addictive. That's why you have constant notifications. I've turned all my notifications off from my social media. Like, the only notifications I have that go off on my phone are like my alarm, like in the morning, or like my daily reminders, like, hey, reminder to hit the gym or to go run, stuff like that. But all the notifications for Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, I've turned all of that stuff off. Bonnie says, I'm so glad there was social around when I was growing up. Half of our generation would be canceled. I couldn't imagine people looking up my teen years. Oh, absolutely. Like, the stuff we said and did, man, I'm glad that wasn't put on video. um, shoot, I lived in a I wasn't part of a white frat. Actually formed a multicultural fraternity back in college, but I did live in this white frat house for 2 years. And they did want me to join, by the way, which I almost did. But the stuff that I saw go on in there, I can't, well, I'm not going to even say here, but yeah, all of us would have been canceled. All of us would have been canceled. um, so yeah, that that's the other flip side of social media, is that it exposes a lot of stuff. But that's because people try to put everything they do online. Everything is not for show. That's so I don't blame that on social media. I blame that on people. Everything is not for show. Oh, definitely, Bonnie. Like I said, the jokes we made. That's why I laugh when some of these trolls come on the channel and they try to roast me, and I'm like, we used to like just make the worst inappropriate jokes about each other all day long just for fun. We even had contests. So I was like, these little young guys trying to roast me online. I was like, it's not going to work. I was like, because if I really wanted to, I would hurt their feelings. And it's not worth the time. But yeah, definitely social media would have got a lot of people's careers ended early. Um, but yeah, I hope Yucatan actually took what I said to heart. Like I said, I wasn't even trying to be funny. I was just saying, generally, develop your social skills by just going out and talking to women. That's the best way to do it. And meet them in venues where you can find a lot of them at. Like, I think he said he had an affinity for cute black women. I don't really know where they hang out anymore because I'm not in that space anymore. Like, I haven't, like, you know, had black girlfriends since college. So, um, but like I said, it's the venues I know that they do tend to go to now are like these little lounges, lounges and nightclubs and stuff like that. Oh, so the thing I always see them talking about online are like going to lounges and going to brunch. For something, brunch is a big deal. Now, I would go to brunch, but if I'm going to brunch, I'm just going to eat. I could care less about meeting women at brunch. If I go to brunch, I'm just trying to get my grub on because I did that once. I actually went to brunch for a date, ironically with an Asian woman. She was a professor here in Maryland. I can't remember what she actually taught, but she was a professor, and she took me to this cool place for brunch. But in that case, yeah, I wasn't there for the food. I was just there just to get to know her better. But if you just going there solo, yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of women that apparently love brunch. I don't know what the thing is. I'm generally down for food any time of the day because I'm always hungry. But yeah, if he wants a cute black girlfriend, I would suggest going to these little outings where they serve brunch, and in the evening to these different lounges and bars that cater to single folks. Or if he's religious, like Kevin Samuels used to tell people, a lot of these churches actually have services to get their single members of the church into relationships. So that's another avenue. The BSK says, "Did I ever enjoy Art Bell or similar? What is Art Bell?" I'm not sure what you meant. But yeah, like I said, the two scariest moments was like either trying to talk to someone, approached them in the mall, and that first call was like crazy. And mind you, we didn't have our own cell phone, so we didn't even have privacy when we called. You were probably on a landline, and that landline you shared with your family. And I'm talking like, as a kid or teenager, right? So you're on a landline that you share with your family. So at any point, someone can get on the phone, like, I need the phone. Just messed up your whole game. Like, you're like 15, and you're like, yo, so what's up? I'm gonna hit that or what? And all of a sudden, get off the phone. I need it. It's like, man, talk about losing points. Like losing like just 100 cool points off the rip. But I'm sure everyone's had that experience, like older folks dealing with a landline. If you're younger, you never had that experience where you had to share a phone with the entire family, and you're trying to make a booty call and someone gets on the phone, and either they're listening into the conversation, or like more than likely as a parent, and they're telling you to get off the phone when you're in the midst of like trying to set up a date with someone. J.A.C says texting back in the day was insane too. Didn't have the full keypad like today. Yeah, texting took way too long on like the early phones in the 2000s. So yeah, but at least with the older phones, you actually had a physical QWERTY keyboard. I don't like these phones today with the virtual keypad. Like, it sucks. It's not meant for like adult fingers. Brielle says Brazilian in the house. See where the wife is at. She's still not. She's still not within reach. Um, BSK says earlier point: water, food, shelter, transportation, communication, tangible. Mm. Philanthropist says hello, brother. What's up? GJC says it took a lot to work up the courage to call that girl, but then her dad answers the phone. Scary times. Those landlines. I really didn't get the father. I usually got the mom. It was either the mom or like an older sibling, and they can cock block. Used Actually, no. The few times I did get the dads were cool as shit. It wasn't the dads that were the problem with me. It was usually like a mom or something. They'd be like, huh, like, because I would be polite. Like, some people did not have know how to give a polite greeting on over the phone, and this is from my generation, so I can imagine now. But I would just be like, they like, they would pick up and say, hello, who's this? I was like, hi, my name is Amon. I was trying to reach Sherry. Is she home, or is she available, please? You're like, hold on. You would get that sometimes. But if the mom was sweet, she would just, the mom would love you too. Like, if you got the mom's approval, you was kind of in there. And I've never had a problem with the dads. Like, they were usually, like I said, they were usually nicer to me than the moms. But it was usually either a mom or an older, like a older sibling that was hating. A philanthropist is in Argentina. He said, "Have you played video games? Not in a very long time." Sometimes I sat and watched my friends play their games, and that was usually just because we were about to do something. I just had to wait for them to get to a saving point in the game. But I don't really play video games myself. To me, it's sort of like a waste of time, because it's like it doesn't lead to anything. Like that's time I could be reading a book or chatting with someone online. So I'm not really a gamer. Although I might get the classic Nintendo, the mini version that you can just connect to your TV or your monitor through a USB port. I do want to get the Nintendo Mini, but that's the classic Nintendo because that was my favorite system that I grew up on in the 80s. Up until 19 I played it up until like 1990, 1991. Yeah, I played it up until 1991 when Super Nintendo came out, but I was still hooked on classic Nintendo. But no, the scary time for me, GJC, with the landlines wasn't the people I called. It was family at home because I have a mother that had no problem embarrassing me on any given occasion. So if I was calling someone just to chat with them, she had no problem embarrassing me over the phone. BSK says, I'm watching out of sync. Folks had trunk party lines, zero privacy. Yeah. GJC said that's one line Tate got right. Level up yourself and not your character in some game. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to I don't want to insult anyone who likes video games. I understand people like video games. It's just for me, I grew out of it when I was a teenager just because I had at the time in the early 90s, I already saw the trend where it was going to be just like a constant war over one console over another. So once so by the time it hit 91 and I still like Nintendo and I saw that Nintendo the company had moved to making all their new games for the Super Nintendo system and they stopped making games for the classic Nintendo by 91. I just lost interest in playing video games. Like I still went to the arcades while that was still a thing, and sometimes if I went over a friend's house and they had a newer system, I would play with them. Like I remember when TurboGrafx 16 came out, that was supposed to be like a rival to Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo was TurboGrafx 16 with Bonk's Adventure, if anyone remembers that. And that console was a flop. Then there was Neo Geo, which was leagues ahead of all three of those other game systems. But no one bought it except for my one friend who had it. Like I think low key his family was wealthy, but he was like the only kid I knew that had Neo Geo, and Neo Geo was leagues ahead of the other three systems because the other three systems only had 16-bit graphics, and I think Neo Geo was already at 32 or even 64-bit graphics back in like the early 90s. But it flopped, and then you had like all the other stuff like Sega Dreamcast, the original PlayStation, all that stuff. So when my friends had it, I would play it, or like if I would go to GameStop would usually have the newest console up, and it would let you like play it in the store. But nothing grabbed my attention to say I wanted to get another system. The closest I came to getting a new system was when the Nintendo Wii U came out. Not the original Nintendo Wii, but the second one, the Wii U. When that came out, I was actually like, yeah, I might. I was like, I actually want that, but I never got it. But that was the closest to me getting another system was the Nintendo Wii U. Uh, Flanford says, "Yeah, I get you, bro. Even I don't find a lot of games that I will like today. There's one called RimWorld. It's a space colony simulator where you have to administrate resources. Okay. DJ says I could burn a solid week playing NBA 2K or FIFA, but games are like 80 plus now. The crazy thing now is that I look at how much the classic Nintendo games cost, and these games were like 50, $60, sometimes $70. But that was back then. So put that in today's money, and I just realized how much money my parents were spending on video games for me. Like $50 back in the '80s, that's like spending like over $100 today. Like that's like almost spending like $100 today on one video game. So those Nintendo games were insanely expensive, and like only the only cheap ones, they were like around 30, $40 were like the little, were either like really old, or they were like the games that no one really cared about. But the majority of them cost around like 50, $60. And now, like in today's money, that's like you were spending like $100 something per game. And I hated, like, when I would go to my cousin's house and all they wanted to do was play sports games, because I didn't like playing sports games. I thought those were boring, except for a few. I played a few. Like I sometimes played double dribble or bases loaded, or I remember I wanted Jordan versus Bird, but I never got that game. Um, that um, it was a few. It was so there was a few sports games that I liked, but I hated going to my cousin's house and that's all they played all day long for hours, which is like they just played NBA games or NFL games all day long. It was boring because I like, when I played video games, I preferred like either like adventure and fantasy games or action games. So I was playing, Rygar or Contra or Double Dragon, or uh, Ransom City, or whatever it was called, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all sorts of stuff like that. I couldn't stand like the like hardcore sports video games. And then the first RPG game came out on classic Nintendo. The first version uh what's the name of that game? This fantasy, I can't remember, but that was the first RPG game that came out on classic Nintendo, and then they made another version on Super Nintendo and N64. Philanthropist says, but on the other hand, I've read some books like Homo Deus from Yuval Noah Harari. That's what's up. I mean, as long as you're well balanced. I was just saying, I'm not a gamer myself. I kind of aged out of that long time ago. BSK says my frat days $55 per month, up to $80 now, at least triple. Baxter says, hey, what's up? What Nintendo games did you play? So many, like all the Super Nintendo, I mean all the Super Mario games, 1, 2, and 3, all the Zelda 1 and 2, all the Castlevanias 1, 2, and 3, all the Double Dragons 1, 2, and 3, Mike Tyson's Punch Out, um, Willow, um, Xanadu, um, Batman, Nightmare on Elm Street, Jaws, Top Gun, Rygar, which I like, Contra, Metroid, Kid Icarus. I think I said Castlevania 1, 2, and 3, right? Yeah. The Some of the games they brought over from Atari, like Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. Although I rarely played those anymore because they were just kind of too slow for me. Oh, also Kung Fu, Karate Kid, Ninja Gaiden. That was one of my favorites. Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2. Actually, I don't remember 2 too well. Basically all of them. There was there was like this knockoff Crocodile Dundee video game, which was sort of like, a cross between like Indiana. It was sort of like a cross between Crocodile Dundee and Double Dragon. I forgot what it was called. but I played that. um, just there's a ton of games. A few wrestling games, of course, and I mentioned a few of the sports games that I played, like Bases Loaded and RBI. Because for some reason I like the baseball game, so like I played RBI and Bases Loaded. Um, then there was this one football game that I liked, Elway. I think it was called Elway Football, something like that. Um, and then sometimes I'll play double dribble. Yeah, John Elway. I think it was called John Elway Football. That was cool. But yeah, I could go on forever naming every Nintendo game I played because it was a lot. And I loved having Nintendo Power Magazine. You could go to Nintendo Power Magazine, learn everything about the makings of the games, all the secret tips, like learning how to get the 100 men on Contra, getting 100 men on Super Mario, learning the secrets to get through the mazes in Zelda, because it gave you an actual fold out map of all the of of the entire world of Zelda, or it showed you how after you defeat the Zelda game, you could go on to a second quest that just redid everything from the first game. And someone told me when I was little, back then when I was playing it, that there was actually 9 quests to go on. Like after you beat the first one, that was just the first of 9 quests. So I never defeated the second quest. But I loved Nintendo Power Magazine. I think I had a subscription or I wanted one. BSK says, do I have a posted book list? You're referring to me, or you're referring to philanthropists? Because I don't have a posted book list. DJC says, oh man, you like Tropico. You build a country and control every aspect of it. You can go communist or democratic, legalize gay rights or not, immigration, super detailed. Wow. So it's a political version of The Sims. Do you have any thoughts on libertarianism? Depends on what version of libertarianism you mean. Are you talking about political libertarianism or metaphysical libertarianism, which are two different things? Metaphysical libertarianism are basically people who believe in like free will and all that sort of stuff. Political libertarianism are those people who are sort of like a cudgel between they it's sort of like a cudgel between like classical liberalism, American liberalism, and American conservatism. They sort of It's sort of like a cudgel between those three political views. Um, if you're talking about political libertarianism, at least in the American sense, I would say that it's interesting, but I don't think you've never seen a successful nation built on libertarianism, and to me that means that the ideology doesn't work. Like if you can't have a successful nation built on a certain political ideology, that's sort of like a real world test that sort of political ideology doesn't work. Or sometimes you'll have nations built on a political ideology, and then those types of nations fail. So we see that with socialism. That's why we know socialism doesn't work, because every socialist country has either failed, reverted to some sort of capitalist democracy, or they've become like a totalitarian regime. So China has become a bit more capitalist over the last 30 years to survive. Although they still have inklings of a centrally planned economy, and some leanings towards and they're still an authoritarian country. But that just goes to show that you don't have to be democratic to be capitalist. You can still have an autocratic society, well, an authoritarian society, and be capitalist. North Korea has became a totalitarian regime, and Cuba, I don't know how, they're not very successful. So I would say they're more or less a failed state. And most of these former countries in the Soviet bloc, those are failed states. But I don't think we've ever seen like a libertarian state, because I don't think it works. So J.A.C says under $30 now, I believe. No, not Pitfall, John. It's so it looks like it's the character is sort of like Pitfall, but it's not Pitfall. It was like I can't remember the name of it. I might try to Google it, but I wouldn't even know what to Google. Because he was like a Crocodile Dundee character, but the gameplay was very similar to like Double Dragon. So it wasn't Pitfall. Pitfall was like Atari and Coleco. As far as I know, they didn't have a Pitfall on classic Nintendo, but they had this character, like I said, who was like a knockoff Crocodile Dundee character, but you got to fight but the fighting was like Double Dragon. I can't remember the name of it, and it used to be one of my favorite games. I'm gonna look it up because now I'm interested. Bayou Billy, that's what it was. I think it was called Bayou Billy. Yep. Yep, it was called The Adventures of Bayou Billy. Like I said, he was a knockoff Crocodile Dundee character, but he would fight like Double Dragon. Like he would punch, kick, jump kick, spin kick, use a knife, all that sort of stuff. Like it resembled like the if you remember how Double Dragon played, it played like that. HMG says Bruce Lee in the house. BSK says Just A Contrarian, if you put up a list, would take it seriously. Okay, I mean, I don't know where I would put up a book list. They used to, so on the old Facebook, there used to be an Amazon feature where you could put up all the books that you were reading or read, but they took that feature down like long time ago, like at least 12 years ago. But I'm an OG on Facebook. I was on there since it first started back in 04. So I remember there used to be an app where you could there was another feature to show where every place you travel to, which is probably not great, but not looking at it nowadays. But yeah, there was like a feature where you could put everywhere you travel to or everywhere you plan on traveling. And there was an Amazon feature built into it where you could put up your reading list or books that you've already read. But I don't know. I'll think about it. Philanthropist says, yeah, we are making an experiment here in Argentina with the libertarianism. My president, he's the first libertarian president in the history of humanity. I don't know if he's the first. He might be. But yeah, it's not a popular. The ideology simply doesn't lend itself to a I don't know a thriving nation state. That's why I say I don't think it's been very successful. There are a lot of libertarians here. There's libertarians in our U.S. Congress for sure, like Paul Rand and yeah, it's like both father and son are both libertarians, and there's a few other libertarians in the U.S. Congress, and some who are libertarians on the municipal level, from different states. But I haven't really, but you've never really seen like a libertarian state, like run by like a libertarian president or prime minister, or not that I've known of. So maybe Argentina is the first, um, and I think that's largely just because, as an ideology, I don't think it would work as a way to run a nation state. BSK says Steph might discuss Ashkenazi traits, why Fertile Crescent has declined, not just theoretical. Philanthropist already gave this a thumbs up. Appreciate it. Thank you. BSK is in your description area. Brief list for starter. I will put it if I did a reading list. I wouldn't put it in my descriptions. I would put it like on the I would put it like in my community tabs. Like I don't know if you guys know, when you go over to community tabs, it has like a bunch of stuff. So I normally just leave like things that are like funny in my community tabs, or sometimes I'll leave pictures of me or my wife, in some of our previous travels. So when people ask, about Mrs. Contrarian, like I have, photos and videos of her up in my community tabs, as well as in my YouTube shorts. And yeah, if I did like a reading list or something like that, I would put in my community tabs. Plus, I don't have I don't know, when you say reading list, like stuff that I've already read and recommend. I don't know if that's what you mean, uh, or if you meant like the current things that I'm reading right now. Because what I'm reading right now is like all over the place, like basically comic books, textbooks. Is it just a mixture of currently textbooks and comic books? Oh yeah, I already took care of that troll BSK. Like, I'm not taking that seriously, and I don't understand why. So in a time where it's so accepting about the whole alphabet mafia, it's so funny that the go-to for every troll is like a gay joke. It's like, come up with something original. Like, there's so many people who are part of the letter mafia. It's not even a huge insult anymore. Like, you have to assume so many different things to make a joke like that work. So, and usually the people making those sorts of jokes are probably the ones on the download themselves. So see what the current weather is. I might do a little late night run before I go to bed. Um, so it's now 86 degrees here. This is in Baltimore. Um, just shows how hot it was. Like I said, it was like 100 when I ran earlier. So I didn't even bother to like then go out back and do some martial arts, because I'm like, nah, it's already too hot. But I might do a second run. Could pull out original crap. You style kung fu. Oh yeah, and some martial arts books too that I'm reading. Like I've started a bunch of books and I just haven't finished them yet. Because usually when I'm like on public transportation, that's when I used to get a lot of my reading done. I would just read whole books just because my commutes were so long back and forth. Like I just read all of Game of Thrones, like mostly going back and forth to work. Like I mean, the first 5 books of A Song of Ice and Fire, then the one of the prequel books, not Fire and Blood, the one that the new show is based on, but there's another prequel book. I think it's called Dunk and Egg or something like that. So read that. Read a bunch of graphic novels, comic books, other textbooks, philosophy books. And it only slowed down, like I said, once I started needing reading glasses. That and then working from home, like I wasn't reading like that because usually when I would take breaks, I would just watch TV. Bad habit. But I mean, aside from that, like I said, since it's summer, have you guys gotten into anything like more summer specific, like cookouts, going to the pool? I don't go to community pools around here. I just, well, one, I don't really know anyone to just go to a pool, and I'm not going to be there by myself. And a lot of people I don't even want to be around, to be honest. Now I go to the pools or to the beach when I'm overseas, of course. And like that was actually a good way to cool off at my condos. Like after I came from the gym, I would cool off by swimming a few laps in the pool because the gym we had in the condo, a lot of the people there did not would turn the air conditioning off because all of these Filipinos thought they could get into better shape by sweating it out. And I'm like, no, that's not how you get a good workout. I said you're just causing yourself like um I said you're just causing yourself dehydration. You're not getting a better workout. I was like, once you replace your fluids, you're gonna be back to where you were before. Like, but I couldn't tell them that. They would turn off the air conditioning and just open the windows, and that did not a bit of help. Especially when I'm on the treadmill and I'm just like burning up because it's already like 90 something, 85, like somewhere between 80s and 90s to 100-degree weather any given day in the Philippines, even during their colder months. It doesn't get that cold, so it was pretty much torture in that gym on that treadmill. And instead of like then doing some weights after I finished running, I would just do a few laps in the pool to cool off, and then I would go back to my room. BSK says book stuff leaning towards Thomas Sowell, caliber adjustable to century place, army know your enemies, proverbial stuff even. Yeah, like I said, most of the stuff I'm reading is like either academic or it's like comic books, stuff like that, or my some of my martial arts books. I don't have like any sort of like revelat like really revelatory things I'm reading right now that might benefit other people. Um, Stuff I read in the past, absolutely, but I would have to like conjure through memory all the like hundreds and hundreds of books that I read that might benefit people. Like I did do one stream where someone asked me about some good books, and I've mentioned a few. Like even yesterday, someone was asking me books for like a new person in philosophy, and I told them get an introduction. I told them get an introductory philosophy book, get an introductory symbolic logic book, and get an introductory book on critical thinking, and that will be like their path into like uh, philosophy. Second favorite president. I don't know. Second favorite. That would still be an open question. What's my first favorite president? I answered before what was my first favorite president, but I'm not even sure if I would consider him my first favorite president. So, I couldn't answer who would be my second, since it's still a question to me who is my favorite. Do you have one? Like, since you asked the question. Yeah, I think everyone needs to refresh on philosophy because most people don't know what it means. Like every time I bring it up in the live stream, like I do an entire live stream on it, most people clearly don't have a clue of what philosophy is. Either they confuse it with religion or they confuse it with just asking a bunch of abstract questions, which is not what philosophy is. Like I was trying to impress upon people that it's his own field of study. But that's why, like I said, if I do, I started, yesterday when I talk about philosophy, I'm just going to approach it from specific topics, like I did yesterday when I talked about what religious figures can be counted as also being philosophers. So I'm gonna do that from now on. Same thing with psychology. If I ask about something like kind of academic, I'm gonna stay within a specific topic, because it can just be overwhelming to ask about a whole overall domain of study. Because I know by and large, most people haven't studied those things. Um, and definitely when it comes to politics, I don't have a favorite politician. I don't idolize politicians. I don't idolize religious leaders. I think these are the two main people that will be that will try to mislead people for their own personal gain. Uh, Not trying to delve into philosophy today, but I think Friedrich Nietzsche had a good point in his views. Some people saw it as nihilism, and I guess in a sense it was nihilism, or what, although Nietzsche himself didn't consider it as nihilism, maybe more of a constructive nihilism or existentialism. Both existentialism and nihilism take as a point of fact the fact that there's no purpose to life other than what you take on, like religious faith. And starting as the guideline for that, Nietzsche actually used his constructive nihilism as a form of critical thinking skills. Like he says, so given that, the purpose of life isn't really, is rather meaningless, we should be very cautious about people who claim to stand for something that gives our lives purpose, whether that be like religious leaders, political leaders, and in this day and age, people who like to do marketing and tech and stuff like that. Like, what do these people have to gain by convincing us that whatever whatever they're peddling is going to make my life more meaningful, given the fact that I know that life in itself is meaningless. So this was Nietzsche's way of teaching sort of skeptical or cynical mindset about people's agendas. And I think people should kind of keep that in the back of mind when they hear political leaders talk, religious leaders talk, um, others given authority figures, or people who are so-called influencers, or people who, or these big big multinational corporations to try to get you to think certain ways at Disney. But in any case, a healthy bit of cynicism goes a long way. BSK has hitting SFF hard for a long time now. Some financial, so philosophy been buried. Love Nebula, Caliber authors, YTG, Solid Q. I don't know who these are. Cyberpunk stuff really hits occasionally. So I just responding to someone. Um, but yeah, so yeah, if I do a reading list, I'm gonna probably put it on my community tabs. So guys, if you never checked out my community tabs, go ahead and check that out. I appreciate, you know, any feedback on my community tabs because it's like it's more like, you know, like a traditional social media part added into YouTube where you can just post things like you can post like on Instagram or Facebook, and you know, just comment back and forth on it. This is not recommended. It's like preference to, I don't know if that's a cat or put on my reading glasses. It's like preference to cats. It's just Enya or not. I was I was uh, since took so much time to respond to someone, I might as well tell you guys what I was responding to. So a friend was talking about um, the new season of The Boys, and I told her it kind of sucks this season. And she was like, "Yeah, it's a little too slow paced for me." I was like, "It's not anything about it being slow paced." I said, "It's the fact that they're like forcing a political agenda through this new season." I mean, it's been in every season, but in the first two seasons, they used to make fun of both sides. Like this clearly like a liberal leftist bent to The Boys as through the current showrunner. But at least in the first two seasons, they used to make fun of the left as well. But now you don't see that. Like now it's like full on seeing Trump. Like Homeland is obviously a superhero stand-in for Trump, and like other people have pointed out, the funny thing is even a liberal pointed this out. He was like, "I'm not so sure that's an insult. Like if you're trying to make this, I said, if you're trying to mock this man and you make him seem like Homelander, who has awesome abilities and skills, you're actually glorifying him. You're not making him look bad." But you can obviously see the attempt to smear everyone on the political right in the boys, and that's not what the comic book was about. The comic book was written by this guy named Garth Ennis, who just had a hatred for superheroes. But it's not enough to just hate superheroes for the show. The showrunner wants to see superheroes as being a part of the problem with the political right as well. And I'm like, what? How? Like, most of the superhero stuff has always been more left leaning, if anything. If there was a political bias amongst superhero like comic books and the people behind them, has always been left leaning. So for this current showrunner to push this whole thing that like superheroes are not just evil, but they represent the right, the political right. It just doesn't make sense, and it's not really good. So I'm gonna see what. I haven't watched episode 4 yet, so I'm gonna see how this goes. But um, it seems like they're just ruining everything that they can by just forcing forcing a lot of leftist beliefs into stuff that don't need to be there. Like it's fine. It's fine if it's there if there's a good story and writing behind it. But once you sacrifice the story just to promote certain polity, certain identity politics, or just to push a whole sort of social political narrative, it detracts from the original content. When we've seen it done in like, and I've ranted about this before in live streams, but they've done that with Star Wars, with Marvel, Doctor Who now, and some other properties. Ghostbusters, they tried to do that in 2016, didn't work. So that's what I was responding to my friend about, guys. But I just wanted to mention, since I took so much time to respond, plus it was salient to something I had spoke about in a previous live stream. Said, oh, there's the book of science fiction or fantasy. Okay. Yeah, I don't read a lot of science fiction. Often the case, science fiction novels aren't that great. If anything, sometimes it's actually within the within the within the book world. Actually, it's kind of an insult to an author to call him a science fiction author. It's um, like saying like the lowest, the lowest denomination of writing is science fiction writing, which isn't fair. But I get why they say that. Burton Powell says, "Do you have kids?" No, not yet. Elliot Hill says, "What's good, Unc?" BSK says, "Peace." Bro, I keep plugging. Bean Man says, "Cartman put a chick in it, make it lame and gay." Yeah, like that's what they're doing. Like I was not going to watch the Acolyte, and I'm so glad that I didn't, because every episode has just been a travesty. Like they are just they they literally destroyed the canon, uh, a bunch of canon from the prequels. And I had this debate with some guy who just ended up being a troll, telling me I was wrong on all these things. And I'm like, dude, I literally grew up watching Star Wars my entire life as a kid, because I've been around since the original releases of the original trilogy, and they even went to see them in the theaters. Then I watched all the prequels in the theaters. I watched the Clone Wars series. I watched Rebels, which was very niche when it came out in 2014. Most people didn't even know about Star Wars Rebels because it was only on Disney XD channel. I played a few of the video games, read some of the comic books, but but like I said, you don't even have to go into all the expanded universe and legend stuff to understand how they broke the canon with the Acolyte in seasons 3 and in episodes 3 and in episodes 4. So um so I banned the guy because he was just trying to, at this point he was just trying to he was just trying to troll. And then I unblocked him just to give him this, maybe the benefit of the doubt that maybe he was just getting heated about something that he was passionate about, maybe because he's in a letter mob and probably saw himself in some of these rainbow characters that Star Wars is doing right now, and one of these little feminist characters. But as soon as he came back, he was just like, yeah, you know, throwing other insults. So I just banned him again, and I won't be allowing him back. Because again, I do this for free, so I have to put up with trolls because they're not putting any money in my pocket. And like I said, I'm not getting paid to do this. This is a hobby until it becomes monetized. And even when it becomes monetized, I still can't say I'll be doing it full time because I have a real life job So, um, in any case, um, yeah, they've just ruined a bunch of different IPs by trying to throw identity politics into it, and most of these identity politics were reduced to just victimhood, to like glorification of victimization. BSK says comedy is the lowest art form documented. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, when it comes to writers, like amongst the writing industry, to be called a science fiction writer is usually considered an insult. That's all I'm saying. I can't say which is the lowest art form, but amongst writers, they consider science fiction writing sort of like lowbrow, and it's generally because most of the like for every good thing, for every good book that's come out of science fiction, there's probably like 1,000 that are bad, and it might fall under that law. I forgot the law that 90% of anything is trash. But yeah, when it comes to sci-fi, it's just not a lot of quality books out there to read. And the ones that are good, everyone knows about them because they stand out from the rest that aren't. Put this other phone on the charger. Sorry guys, give me a second. Hi. Um, Being Man says comedy is the best. It points out the best and worst of any culture. Yeah, I can't say comedy is the lowest art form because, I mean, relative to what though? So if you're talking about as far as art and literature, I I don't know if I can say comedy is the lowest art form. As soon as you come in this thing with the whole unk thing and all this sort of stuff, I'm already gonna like probably block you because usually it's gonna be followed by a string of words that sounds incredibly stupid. And like I said, most of these people saying unk, I'm in better shape than all of them. So I'm not gonna. I already don't respect the man if I know I can beat the shit out of them. And also, if you're like half my age and I can beat the shit out of you, I'm definitely gonna not respect you because it's like you're like in your 20s, like you should be in way better shape than I am at my age. So if you come at me with some disrespectful stuff, you're gone. Like I said, most of these trolls are below average intelligence, which is why they don't get that anyone can sniff out a troll because they're not too clever. These are a bunch of incels. Because only incels have nothing else better to do than to be online trolling people. Like young people who have young people who have a life aren't going to be trolling. Like they're not. It's only incels doing that shit. But I'm gonna end this soon unless I'm get some more genuine questions. I'm still hungry. I just ate literally before I did the stream, but I'm still hungry because I don't eat enough. So, and I probably can order some stuff too. And I might do a late night run still, undecided because it's still pretty hot. But, um, yeah, just wondering if other people got questions. Like I said, nominally, there wasn't really a topic, but I was nominally trying to steer the conversation towards people's summer plans or if they did anything this weekend. since we had a federal holiday in the middle of the week and no one really took advantage of it, because it's hard to take advantage of a federal holiday in the middle of the week on during the summer. Like, federal holiday would be better like during the during the school during the school year, when people would take advantage of it, at least for children and college kids. But even for adults, I still think it would be, federal holidays are better like towards the colder months. But Juneteenth fell on Wednesday, and it's like, what can you do with that? Because you still got to go to work on Thursday, so it's not like you're gonna throw back a couple of beers and be out like just grilling all day long. Like, most people probably just gonna take that Wednesday and be like, cool, I'm gonna just stay inside, order some order some Uber Eats or DoorDash, and call it a day. But today I did see cookouts and smelled some grills, and that's kind of like torture. Like, when you're running and you can smell like people grilling on the in that backyard. I'm like, man, that smells good. Now I'm hungry. It's like it make you not want to finish your run. Like, you want to get back home so you can go eat. Even worse, there's a Popeye's chicken right up the street, and sometimes when they cook, I can smell their food all the way in our neighborhood. And I'm like, they got to be doing that on purpose. There's no way that the smell of that restaurant is wafting all the way over into the residential area, like across the street. I say, unless they're like purposely making it so that it would attract people's attention and want them to go eat there. Because that used to be torture too. Like, early, maybe it's just because they were firing up their chicken early in the morning. But when I would go on my early morning runs, no, not my early morning runs, like my later morning runs, that's when Popeyes was opening up, I guess, and I could smell the food. I'm like, damn, that smells good. Beanie Man says conspiracy. I think it's a conspiracy. Conspiracy. But yeah, that is, yeah. Yeah, so people were definitely grilling today, so it made me hungry, and I'm guessing they are going to do so tomorrow. I think the only reason there wasn't more people on the grill today is just because it was 100 degrees outside, and I think a lot of people did not want to be grilling grilling burgers and dogs when it's like 100 degrees outside. It's like, shoot, with that temperature, you don't even need the grill. You could just put it on the, you could just put it on the on the sidewalk or whatever, and just flip it over, let it cook slowly. But yeah, like I said, just wanted to see if anyone did anything for like the first weekend of this summer. And if it's already this hot in June, I don't know how we're going to get through like July and August. Climate change is definitely real because hot as Dickens. It was not like this many decades ago. It was not this hot, especially in this part of the world and Maryland. This is not. This didn't used to be typical temperature for this this part of the country. In other places like the Southwest, definitely this would be on par for them. But 100-degree weather, like, man, sucks. But guys, I'm about to go in a few minutes. I'm just gonna stay in case there's a few other questions. I'll think about putting up a reading list. If so, you can look out for that on my community tabs. So, when you go into the channel, there's a part that says community. That's the community tabs where you can go through and see people posting stuff. And, how people post in the community tabs is like, reminiscent of like an older version of like Facebook or Instagram, stuff like that. So I have a bunch of stuff up there you can check out. Most of it is like humorous stuff, by the way. Although it might be a bit dated since the last time I've posted something on there. But I've also posted some stuff with me and Mrs. Contrarian as well, or with her alone. doing stuff with her travel group or with her family. So you can check out that stuff. I still have more videos of her coming up as well. The two videos that she made, she's going to actually have to redo those completely. One was a video where she was showing her camping backpack, because after I did my video, my live stream showing my bug out bag, she got really interested in doing her own version of that. So she's going to show her backpack, but she's really soft spoken, so the audio didn't come out very well. And she uh, she tried to fix the audio through some editing, but that didn't work either. However, you can see a snippet of that video on my YouTube Shorts where she starts the introduction to her video. But she's going to redo that completely. And then her video where she was congratulating me once I hit my 1,000 subs 4 weeks ago, she's going to redo that too, because that, I guess she tried to do that and it just didn't work. And she actually even tried a mic that she bought, and the mic wasn't even compatible with her phone. So she's going to redo that video as well. But I told her, I said, well, when you redo that video, I might actually be monetized. So you might have to congratulate me on being both monetized and hitting over 1,000 subs. So she's cool with that. So be on the lookout for those. Bean Man says thought on Alex Jones. I haven't really thought about him. Not lately. Like, seems his mouth. I don't know. Like, it seems like his mouth keeps cashing checks that he can't deliver. So if he loses his wealth because he keeps saying dumb shit, that's his problem. I mean, that was his fault in the beginning when he tried to deny a mass shooting that everyone could see, that everyone saw. Like, it was no question that those things that didn't happen, regardless of under what presidential administration it happened. That mass shooting happened. So that and a bunch of other stuff that he does, I have no sympathy for him. Now, can he be right about some things? Yeah, sure. But I would have never wasted. He's not anyone I ever watched anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I can tell you this: if I was at the level of success that he was, I would not jeopardize that just by trying to be controversial. Like, despite my name being Just A Contrarian, I can assure you that I do police my mouth quite a bit. And that, if I got to the level of some of these influencers who get kicked off of social media, like, I have no sympathy for them. When Fresh and Fit got kicked off of YouTube, I could care less, because they had got multiple warnings from YouTube on their behavior. Other influencers or content creators had told them they need to chill out, and they didn't listen. And the one of the idiots, Myron, who's he's not even black. He's some sort of little Sudanese punk, who used to be a former Homeland Security agent. This guy thought he could go on another social media platform outside of YouTube and say stuff that would be against the rules on YouTube, and it wouldn't get checked. But when you join the YouTube partnership program, anything you do outside of YouTube that goes against their rules will still get you knocked off the platform. So he knew that, and he took that gamble, and he deserves it. Plus, I don't care that they got kicked off, because they became big because Kevin Samuels made them big. He came down to their show in Miami for free. They didn't pay him. He spent his own dime to fly down there and do their show, and got them to go viral to where they were because of Kevin Samuels' fame. And then behind his back mocked him and called him gay and all sorts of things. So I don't feel sorry for them. I also don't feel sorry for Just Pearly Things. She was a white woman from the the whitest of white places in like the Midwest, and there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is she ingratiated herself into the black manosphere and talked about things she had no experience on. All she did was plagiarize stuff that other black manosphere content creators have said, and became like the reigning content creator within that space until she was exposed. And that's not even what did her in. What did her in was that she was asking minors inappropriate stuff on her platform, and then she posted it. The parent asked her to take it down. She refused, and YouTube kicked her off for that and for a bunch of other things she did, like bringing on a white supremacist Nick Fuentes on her channel. He had already been kicked off of YouTube, so you shouldn't invite people on your channel who have been already kicked off of YouTube, because that will get YouTube to kick you off as well. They also did that. She also did that with Andrew Tate. Again, he was kicked off of YouTube. Don't don't invite guests onto your channel who have already been banned from YouTube, because if they wanted those people on, they will allow them. So it's like going against their rules that you are allowing people who they deign to not have on their channel, on their platform anymore, come onto your channel, which is owned by them. Like as a YouTube content creator, you're basically an independent contractor. So a lot of these people, like I said, I don't feel sorry for them. All of them get kicked off of YouTube, and then they go off to Rumble, which is like the island of reject toys for all the for all the content creators who've been kicked off of YouTube and TikTok. They go to Rumble. So that's where Fresh and Fit is. That's where a few other reject content creators are. I guess who knows? Alec Jones might find his way on there too. Well, it's not that YouTube has some tough rules being met. It's the fact that they're owned by Google, and if you can't tell from how the content has changed within the last 12 years, they're gearing their content towards big to um, big advertisers. Like they wanted to make it like bring it to the point where basic cable was, like back in like the early 90s, late 80s. Like they're trying to get the same people who advertise on TV to advertise here on YouTube. But to do that, they have to be friendly to these advertisers. An advertiser isn't going to want to back content that they think is bigoted, racist, stuff like that. Also, a lot of these red content creators will find themselves falling afoul of YouTube. I mean, I consider myself sort of red pill, but that's not like my whole raison d'etre, right? So, although I do consider that's not my whole way of content, right? And some of these red pill content stuff is not safe for advertisers, because by and large the people who buy the most stuff are women. So advertisers gear a lot of their products and services towards women, because they are the ones who often most likely buy things. So if you're not advertiser friendly on YouTube, you're going to find your channel not being promoted, shadow banned, maybe losing monetization, or even eventually getting deplatformed altogether, like Fresh and Fit and Just Pearly things. So it can seem like tough rules, but they're at the end of the day is a business. Like they they're trying to make YouTube friendly to these big advertisers, so they can. So just like you see the same, I mean, we even see it now. Some of the same commercials we see on network TV, we're starting to see now on YouTube, and it's going to be more and more of that, because that's what YouTube wants to do to create that revenue. So content creators are going to need to keep that in mind, that they need to make their content friendly for advertisers if they want to continue making money on YouTube. So that's how I see it. Are the crowds more left leaning? Maybe, but that's just because, like I said, to be advertiser friendly, they need to advertise to people who are buying the most products. Who are the people who are buying the most products? Predominantly women and younger people. And those two groups tend to be more left leaning. So it doesn't mean you can't be a conservative on YouTube and talk about conservative things, but when you take it too far, they're going to spank you. So, like I said, Andrew Tate took it too far, so he was done. Plus, they're not going to want to keep someone on who's getting into criminal trouble either, because again, that person isn't going to be advertiser friendly, unless you're a president. Then you can really stop. Um, but yeah, it just depends. Like then some content creators are actually not independent content creators. Some of them actually work under some sort of media company. So that's also a thing. So they gotta abide by the rules of the media company, who also has to abide by the rules of YouTube. So if people don't like that, again, they should just get a real job and not try to create content. I've been pretty, like, this channel, I'm pretty like blunt about what I say, just because I'm not monetized, so I'm not dependent on this for making money. But if I do decide once this is monetized that I want to take this way more seriously, then of course I'm gonna be more careful in how I curate content for the channel. Although I'm definitely not gonna, like I said, when it comes to the two most important things to me, like intellectual matters and martial arts, I'm never gonna like mislead people on those things. So that's where my integrity lies with that. Like I'm not gonna mislead people for the sake of making something advertiser friendly, or trying to gain a certain crowd. But I know how to be business savvy at the end of the day as well. So you can do both. You can keep your integrity intact and be business savvy. Anyway, I know you guys don't want to talk about all the minutiae of content creation and stuff like that. So I'm about to head out. But I did appreciate the chat with everyone. And like I said, if you have any other comments or questions after I upload this, you can leave in the comments section and I'll see it. Or you can also go to my community tabs and check out some of the things I've posted in the past. Someone suggested that I make a reading list, so I might do that. But it might be, if I make a reading list, it'll probably be of stuff that I've read in the past, not current things. Because my current things I'm reading right now are mostly comic books and some textbooks that probably wouldn't interest people. um, but all right. Again, any other questions, guys? Comments, queries, concerns? Once you kind of get all the trolls out of the way, start to have a pretty decent conversation with folks. Moonlit Fern, what's up? Says, what's some comics you like? So, so you mean specific storylines I'm reading, or you mean like the people that I follow? Like my favorite superheroes are Batman, Wolverine, Spider-Man, uh, Superman, Captain America, Daredevil, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and teams like X-Men, Justice League. But as far as storylines I'm currently reading, um, I read a bunch of stuff that I got on Free Comic Book Day from a bunch of different authors. And I just read Captain America #1, which was the the new reboot of the Captain America story, starting in October 2023. So I just read that. Then I have a Marvel encyclopedia. I want to read the entire Marvel encyclopedia. And I have a Batman encyclopedia. I have several Batman encyclopedias, but the one I have is one that was written back in like the early 80s or 70s that I've never gotten to yet. So I'm reading that. Um, what else? I've read all my other comics. Um, but yeah, those are general superheroes I read, and not superhero stuff too. But yeah, like Batman, Wolverine, Spider Man, Superman, Captain America, Daredevil, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, um, Marvel, Star Wars, The Walking Dead until it ended. Um, what else? What else I have over there? Some GI Joe stuff. There's a new relaunch of Transformers called it's called Energon. Um, oh, and I'm reading the novelization of the original Star Wars movie. That. Um, what other comics? Mm, I think that's it. Oh, I started reading a new storyline for One Piece, which is like the backstory of Ace. Like so, this new One Piece manga is all about um, Ace's beginnings. Like the first issue just shows how he got his devil fruit powers and all that sort of stuff. So that might be pretty good. Only Fern says Walking Dead was fire. Yeah, yeah. Being uh, sorry. FYI. Beanie Man says FYI who watches the Watchers. Mona says I've been reading Bleach and Attack on Titan. Thing I haven't caught up on Marvel in ages. I miss Wolverine and Hulk and Deadpool. Yeah, there's a whole new they did a reboot of X-Men currently that I've heard I guess mixed things about. So the new X-Men reboot. I mean, yeah, the new X-Men reboot might be good. I haven't read it yet. Usually, I'll just buy like the. Usually, I'll just buy like the TP the or graphic novel and just get the whole story contained within. But sometimes, if it's something that's brand new and I'm not sure if I want to read the entire storyline, I'll just get the first issue of that new storyline. So like I did with Captain America #1, I just wanted the issue. Plus, I like the artwork on the cover. Sometimes I'll just if I'm not interested in getting the whole reading the entire story, I'll just get the first issue of it just because I like the cover artwork. Because the cover artwork on the new Spider-Man that came out in 2022 was really good, and I like the new artwork cover on this Captain America #1 for 2023. And it's still a bunch of old stuff I want to buy. There's still some old Batman stuff from the 90s I want to buy. I want to buy his Batman War Games 1 and 2. I want that Fantastic Four #1 that came out in I believe 2015. I still want to get Kingdom Come and Superman Man of Tomorrow. I haven't bought that. I was trying to think if my wife bought it for me, but no, she bought me All Star Superman. But I want to get Superman Man of Tomorrow and Kingdom Come, which is like a futuristic version of Justice League, and all the art is done by the incredible comic book artist Alex Ross. If you've never seen his artwork, Google it. It's really good. Um, oh, there's this IDW Comics um, version of Ghostbusters I want to read. And IDW has been really great with the Ghostbusters. Like they've done like a lot of crossovers with a whole bunch of people in IDW. Like they crossed over with like Star Trek, with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, stuff like that. Um, I think there was a new Ninja Turtle thing I wanted to read too. No, no, no. It was one I read for Free Comic Book Day, but I didn't keep it because it wasn't the first issue. So yeah, so I think that's it in a nutshell. Greg Cox says hi. What's up? Only for instance, the show fell off. Yeah, it did. Well, I came back to watch the Walking Dead spinoff, which was just Rick Grimes and Michonne. I watched that. That wasn't bad. That kind of gave me the feels for the old show. But I wasn't watching all the other spinoffs because there's another spinoff with Daryl, but he finds himself in France. I'm like, I'm not watching a spinoff of Daryl ending up in France. Then there's another one about Negan and Meg and Negan and what's her name? Uh, the other chick. Like they have their own spinoff. I'm not watching all of those. I was just interested in seeing the finality of what happened to Rick and Michonne. So they got a good ending. So that's pretty much all I cared, which is completely different from the books when he died in the second to last issues. Like a random guy just killed him just because he could. And this is after everything was done and the communities were safe. Now this random dude just decided to kill Rick. And so the rest of the story is being told by his son. Uh, you know, and of course the show did the dishonor of killing his son. um, only for instance, I bought a Tony Chopper hat from the anime shop in Bangkok. That's what's up. I didn't see an anime shop when I was in Bangkok, but probably just I didn't look in enough places. Nova says Black Clover. I've started that anime. I have not the manga, but I've started the anime. But I think I'm only like 2 or 3 episodes in because I literally I literally have like a dozen other anime that I'm watching at the same time. Vanna says hi. What's up, Vanna? Beeman says Black Clover is dope. So yeah, I've watched a few seasons of Black. I mean, not a few seasons, few episodes of Black Clover. But I'm still trying to finish some of these other anime that I'm watching before I like jump into it. So I might have to rewatch those episodes. Only for instance, did you read the one when Hulk was the last human left and finally died from those alien insects? No, I haven't read that version of Hulk. Um, I think that's Immortal Hulk. I think. Well, yeah, I haven't read that. The only thing I'd probably be interested in reading as far as Hulk is maybe World Breaker Hulk, because all of us had hoped at some point they were going to put World Breaker Hulk into the MCU, but as apparent from the Soy Boy they currently got playing Bruce Banner and the Hulk, they were never going to get a World Breaker Hulk in the MCU. Like he's been outdone by his cousin She Hulk. So we're never going to get a World Breaker Hulk in the MCU. We have to deal with a She Hulk instead. And she wasn't bad in the comic books. It's just I just never cared about derivative characters. So, but the version of her in the MCU is the personality on her that version of She Hulk is completely abominable, or I should say abomination, right? Same thing with like Carol Danvers. She was a likable person in the comics, and they made her unlikable in the movies. B-Man says Plastic Man is my favorite hero. That's old school. My wife, no, she's not really into comics. Um, Moonlit Fern, she just bought them for me to read. She bought me All Star Superman as Christmas gift or birthday gift, something like that, because she knows what I'm into. So she, she'll ask me like certain things, and she'll go out and get them. Like she'll go to the comic book store or whatever to buy me things. Free comic book day. I don't know I forgot where you live, but they have free comic book day every year here in the States where they a bunch every every major comic book company releases a bunch of free comics that day, and usually those free comic books tend to be the first issue of a new reboot of that comic book story. Um, like when so the Star Wars High Republic #1, which is what the new show on Disney Plus, The Acolyte, is based off. That came out like 5 years ago, and I bought it. I mean, I got it for free, but now it's actually worth a lot of money because it's the start of a new storyline and Star Wars Marvel. So if you actually looking for like a first printing of that comic book, it's actually going to cost you money, especially if you want it CGC graded, which is I think CGC is a scam anyway, to be honest. But that could be a subject for a completely different live stream, as whether CGC is worth buying or worth getting your comics CGC graded. Like that can be a whole different conversation. But Free Comic Book Day happens every year sometime in the spring. Uh, I guess usually around April, May. And if you miss Free Comic Book Day, usually you can go to the comic book store and they'll have leftovers from that day that they'll still give out for free, or you can get them from the public library. So, um, if anyone who goes to buys comics should know about Comic Book Day if they live in the United States. I don't know if they do it in other countries. I would assume they do it also in Canada. I would assume. Like for instance, I have a soft spot for Negan. I don't really like him, but he wasn't the worst. He wasn't the worst villain to me in Marvel. I mean, sorry, in Walking Dead. In the in the in the in the TV show, probably so, but I think I think the first bad guy they encountered was still the worst one in the comics, which was the Governor. The Governor was way worse in the comics than he was on the TV show. Only for instance, a Japanese shop at MBK. Yeah, I've been to MBK. I didn't walk around MBK. That's probably what it was. I went to MBK, but I didn't really walk around the mall like that. Or I probably would have saw it. It's expensive. Everything is from Tokyo, and they have cosplay conventions. Oh, so that's where they have the cosplay convention, is at MBK. Okay. Yeah, because I've been there. Only for instance, yeah, She-Hulk, boring, but I understand. Being Man says, watch Golden Boy. It's an anime. If it's something that fits my interest, there's too much anime out here. It's like literally thousands of anime series and movies to watch. I did a whole live stream last week asking what was people's favorite anime. Terrence Howard messed up the money. He should have stayed as War Machine. Uh, According to him, they let him go, and he keeps blaming Robert Downey Jr. for it. So whatever happened or didn't happen, I guess it wasn't by choice that he left. Whether he got fired or whether he got replaced or whether they didn't want to use him anymore, I'm not sure what actually happened. But I know it wasn't uh, it wasn't his decision to leave that role. Stocks Family Farm says, good evening from the Oregon coast, sir. What's up, Stocks? Only Firm says, Thailand now. Bought my first house ever. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. You're in Thailand. I keep forgetting. So bought my first house ever. American in Thailand owned property because You can own property now here as a foreigner. You can? Since when? Because as of 2 years ago, you definitely couldn't. Thailand was just like the Philippines, where foreigners couldn't own. You could buy condos, but you couldn't buy houses in Thailand. And it was this, and because it's the same thing in the Philippines. Like the only way you can actually like buy property in the Philippines if it's commercial property. So as a business, so you can. That's the get around. You can buy a business if you have a business, you can buy commercial property, but you aren't allowed to buy private property as a foreigner unless you are a unless you're talking about condos. And it was the same way in Thailand, so they must have just changed that. Because usually most foreigners do is they buy stuff through their wives, and it's just in their wives' name. Because my house is in my wife's name. It's not in my name because I as a foreigner I can't buy property. So Eric Alvarado stopping by. What's up, Eric? Haven't seen you in a while. Cheerleader says, "Do you like Coco Melon? It's one of my favorites." Not familiar. Only Fern says, "Shout out Oregon," and yes, cheerleader. I have much respect for Michael Jai White. Met him here, and he was super cool. Fun fact: he was in TMNT too. He was trying to join the Foot Clan as well as Gamble. I got another factoid for you. Michael Jai White was back in Toxic Avenger. That's how long. That's how long he's been acting. So he's way older than he looks. He has to be like pushing 60. Like he was in, like I said, he was in Toxic Avenger Part Two, I think. Toxic Avenger Part Two, and those were early '80s films. So yeah, he's been around Hollywood for a long time. Oh yeah, we remember he was the mob boss in Dark Knight. Yeah. Only for instance, they just changed the law, but I can't type what I want to say less majesty laws. But yeah, we can own land here as of a few months ago. Wow. Okay, that needs to be advertised more because that I have not seen that. Like the last time I've heard people talking about it, they were still saying that you can't buy property out there. They must be trying to court a lot of. They must be trying to get a lot of foreign investment going. Then that's what I'm guessing. Like once they started opening up buying property to foreigners, they're trying to get foreign investment. I'm only first year he was in Toxic. Yeah, it was Toxic Avenger Part Two. It wasn't Part One, but he was in Part Two. So I remember I'm like, yo, isn't that the dude? Because even back then he was already famous. I was like, yo, isn't that the dude that was in? I was like, that's the guy who was in Spawn because he played the original Spawn, and he also when HBO did a movie on Tyson, he played Mike Tyson in the HBO movie. That's another movie people probably don't remember. But yeah, they might, yeah, because unfortunately they got that stupid Hulu series about Mike Tyson, and that's the most low budget show. I would not recommend it. It's like a docu series on Mike Tyson with this guy, and it just looks low budget. But the HBO movie they did back in the day on Mike Tyson was Michael Jai White. Like I said, he's been in so much stuff from the starting from the '80s. But I think most people might have saw him like in stuff like Spawn or Universal Soldier, stuff like that. Only for instance, tourism is what keeps Thailand economy alive. Yeah, he was the best Spawn. I love that movie. I don't like that movie. It was not good. Todd, that's I talked about that before. Actually, I was saying that sometimes comic book creators shouldn't have too much creative control over the movies because making interesting comics is not the same as filmmaking, and I don't think Todd McFarlane knew how to make a good Spawn movie because he had too much creative control over the film. But he's doing another Spawn reboot, but this time it's going to star Jamie Foxx playing Spawn, but it's supposed to be, instead of it being an action movie, it's going to be a horror movie. because the perspective is going to be from those people who see Spawn. That might be good. Eric says, I personally remember seeing Michael Jai White in Universal Soldier. Yeah, so like a lot of people first saw him in Universal Soldier. Some people might have saw him as Mike Tyson back in the 90s. Some may have saw him as Spawn. Um, I think he was in a few comedies. He was in some Tyler Perry movies. Unfortunately, I hate Tyler Perry, but that's a different subject. Um, he, you know, and then he was in a bunch of, low budget martial arts films. Um, but yeah, the first thing but that wasn't the first time I saw him, but that was the oldest thing I ever seen him in was Toxic Avenger 2. Eric says, yeah, the 1997 Spawn was a little dark and corny at the same time, weird mix. Yeah, I, that's true. I think that kind of explains it well. Like I said, I don't think the comic book creator, he should have he should like the comic book creators should definitely be like a creative consultant towards the films, but they shouldn't have, and maybe they even have producer credit. That's fine as well, but they shouldn't be the filmmaker. He playing the filmmaker messed that movie up because he doesn't know how to make good movies. And even the cartoon back on HBO back in the 90s, I don't think it was that good either. I used to watch it just to see how dark it would get. Only for instance, I feel Michael's underrated as an actor and a real fighter. His age didn't hold him back. He could be in UFC. He was in a Nicki Minaj video playing a samurai. Nah, it's not his age because there's like people in their 40s in the UFC. That wasn't what held him back from the UFC. The fact that held him back is he's never done mixed martial arts. He 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 exaggerates his abilities, like, and other martial artists have called him out on it. He spends more time bodybuilding than he does as a martial artist. Like he does not look like what a person who actually fights look like. Most people who fight do not spend the majority of their training towards bodybuilding. That's number one. Two, he comes from a traditional martial arts background and like karate, like I think Kyokushin karate and some other karate styles. He's never competed. He talks about his cred is about street fighting and stuff like that. You don't get street cred for fighting because there's no way to verify street fights. I've been in a few street fights, but I don't use that as credibility as a self-defense coach because you can't verify what you did on the street. Besides that, a person who actually did get in a bunch of street fights just means that they're not a very good person because a good person won't be sitting there getting into a bunch of street fights unless it's something like semi professional, like street beefs or stuff like that. But he's his he exaggerates and he talks on matters in martial arts that he doesn't know about, like Shaolin Kung Fu, like saying that there's the Shaolin Kung Fu isn't real anymore and all this sort of stuff. How would you know? Like he doesn't like he talks on stuff that makes him kind of unlikable sometimes, to be honest. And like I said, then he'll post stuff saying he fought this MMA person. Sparring with someone is not fighting them. Those are completely two different things. I can spar with someone in the MMA. Like I can spar with George St. Pierre. That doesn't mean I fought him. So it's like he's I don't want to get too much in it, but yeah, he's not. He comes from the era of martial arts where you could talk bullshit and no one would check you on it. But nowadays with the internet, a lot of stuff he says doesn't fly because we can easily go to the internet and verify stuff that he says. Uh, Only for instance, have you seen him train? He's great at jiu-jitsu and semi-decent at Muay Thai. I haven't seen him. I mean, if I haven't seen much of his training. I mean, he has a I think a YouTube channel. Plus, I've seen him on other YouTube channels like Viking Samurai, who who most of his content is built on the action heroes of the 80s and the 90s and early 2000s. So he's interviewed Michael Jai White on his channel, Viking Samurai. And like I said, I think Michael Jai White has his own channel or something like that where he talks about martial arts related content. And sometimes he just doesn't know what he's talking about. Like I said, saying that the Shaolin Temple doesn't no longer exist and stuff like that. Like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, CJ Johnson says, how do you feel about replacing Terrence Howard? Was it a dirty move? I can't say. Um, I liked him in the first Iron Man movie, and obviously he has. And let's be honest, Terrence Howard has way more charisma than Don Cheadle. He does. Like Don Cheadle is like a bland version of Rhodey, whereas Terrence Howard was a way more charismatic version of Rhodey. So it'd have been interesting to see him play War Machine, definitely. But whether they did him dirtier, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of Hollywood. So only for instance, true, but I've seen him train. He's pretty beast. I wouldn't want to go, but again, I know Muay Thai, and I'm about 41. Not trying to fight a 60-year-old man, but yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, and you talk about he's good at Muay Thai. You know, some of these knock Muay, and you know this because you live in Thailand. Some of these kids start like when they're like 6, 8 years old. I mean, they've supposedly outlawed letting little kids fight now, like below the age of 13. But a lot of them are still, even if they're not fighting anymore at the age of 8, a lot of them are still training starting their training out at 6 and 8 years old. And it's like a lot of these kids, were like already champions by the time they were like 14, 15 years old. By the time they hit their adult years, they've retired because their body's been through so much wear and tear. Um, but um, his competency in Muay Thai, I haven't seen it, so I can't talk about it. I know he does jujitsu as well, or I guess Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I don't know. I hate calling Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but that's my own bias. I've talked about that in the past. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he's semi decent at those arts. I just don't take him seriously because he brags on his abilities, but he's never competed. Like I don't take someone seriously who brags about their abilities and they've never competed. That's that's my beef with Michael Jai White. I'm only friends say yeah, like Steven Seagal is trash. Yeah, he is. Steven Seagal is another person that claims he he claims he's in the MMA world, but he doesn't say he fought people in MMA. He just says he's trained them. I'm like, no, you didn't. He claimed he trained this one guy just because he taught him a front snap kick. He's like, oh, but the way I teach the front snap kick is different. I'm like, oh, really? So there's so many different ways to do a front snap kick, right? Okay, Steven. Like, surprised you can even get your fat ass leg up that high, but um, Moment Friends of the 80s was silly. You're right, 100%. No, but these are the most beloved action films because after the 90s, we stopped having like a lot of action heroes. Like, because most of the time now in action movies, you'll have actors who just have, who, instead of hiring martial arts people to be the actors in these movies, now they're just the stuntmen for these famous actors. So you'll just have a famous martial artist come in and be the stuntman for Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt or Chris Evans or Robert Downey Jr., who does actually train in Wing Chun Kung Fu. Um, or people were standing for Keanu Reeves, although he did do BJJ, but he just learns for the movies. It's not like um, the guy who played Bane, who actually does train and compete in BJJ on his personal time, so he's legit. Um, or Ed O'Neill, who used to play, Al Bundy, has a black belt in BJJ, so he's legit. they didn't paint him brown and okay. I thought you said War Machine. I'm sorry. You said was it funny when they painted him brown in that war movie? Yeah, you're talking about the Ben Stiller movie. Yes, it was funny. They were making fun. It was meta comedy. Um, and back when that movie came out, no one was upset about that. They were more upset about Ben Stiller playing a retarded kid than they were about Robert Downey Jr. doing blackface in the movie, because he was doing blackface in the movie to make fun of actors doing blackface in movies. That was the whole comedy of it. It wasn't him just doing blackface. He was making fun of actors who would do anything for certain roles, like playing characters outside of their ethnic group, like Scarlett Johansson and Emily, whatever her name is, and other people, or like the dude that played Gandhi back in the day, and then also ended up playing the character in Iron Man 3, but as a spin-off, saying that he wasn't actually like a the Asian, he was just like a Jewish actor who was playing a bad guy for another white person. So then they tried to so MCU got a lot of flack for that, so they corrected it, and in Shang-Chi they actually used the actual uh, Chinese bad guy to play the Mandarin. But in any case, yeah, it was very funny because he was the black actor in the movie was calling him out for doing blackface, so it was very funny. Oh, he said he was trolling. Oh, I didn't even catch what C.J. Johnson was saying. I thought he was just asking, did I think it was messed up that they replaced Terrence Howard with Don Cheadle? I didn't even catch. I didn't even catch it. Too often I'm naive and assume that people are approaching, asking me questions in good faith. Eric says, I met Terrence Howard one time. I was driving for a limousine company in Chicago. This was 2016. He was filming for a show, and I picked him up from the airport and talked about his growing up in Chicago. You talking about when they the Fox show, right? Damn, what was that? I never watched it because it just looks so ratchet. Um, I forgot the name of the show. The one with Jussie Smollett, and but I think that was the show he was filming at the time back in 2016. I just ever refused to watch the show because it just looked ghetto. Moonlit Fern says, nope, as of last week, they have Muay Thai schools. They start at 6 years old. It's cool. They preserve the culture and teach these kids to defend themselves against creeps and predators. Yeah, like I said, they've always taught at that young age, Moonlit Fern, like at 6 or something like that. But what happened was, like, I'm gonna say like 6 or so years ago, they banned letting underage kids compete. Like because they, you know, up until like 6 7 years ago, 8 year olds used to actually have like professional fights. Like they fought professionally like at 8 years old. So Thailand banned that, but no, they still train at like at 6 years old, but they don't allow them to compete professionally anymore. Like that was a lot of people were saying that was like human rights abuse and stuff like that. Eric says Terrence was a pretty cool guy. I think he seemed like he would be cool. He's just he's just also kind of narcissistic, especially with that little pseudoscientific rant he went on a few weeks ago, and people kept asking me my opinions on it. I was like, yeah, he's not talking like real physics. And Neil deGrasse Tyson tried to call him out on it. Of course, Neil deGrasse Tyson's problem is sometimes he needs to shut up too. At least Neil deGrasse Tyson knows what he's talking about when it comes to physics. But in other times, Neil should probably shut up himself. Elon Musk says Tom Cruise does his own stunts. He doesn't do all of them. He does a lot of his own stunts, but he doesn't do all of them. It's just like the rumor with Jackie Chan. People thought Jackie Chan did his own all his own stunts. he does many of his stunts. He doesn't do all of his own stunts. And I'm talking about the martial arts stuff. Like the point I was making, it was not specifically Tom Cruise. I was saying that nowadays a lot of action movies prefer to to market themselves by getting big name actors like Tom Cruise, like Robert Downey Jr., like Chris Evans, and you can name a bunch of other people, and then have these really talented martial artists come in to be the stuntmen to do this the fight work for the movies. That was my point. I think you got that lost with a specific name. Yeah, what was the name of that show, Eric? I can't remember. Like, it was like one of the biggest shows on Fox at the time, and I was like, I'm not watching this. It's like, it's just about a bunch of gay men, um, hustling, ghetto black women. It just didn't appeal to me. Hustle? No, no. I'm thinking that I was about to. I was thinking of the movie Hustle and Flow, but no. Um, whatever the name is, we both remember the show, but yeah, I never watched it. Let's see what time it is, guys. Oh, it's almost 12. So yeah, I'm getting ready to go now. So one of my friends said, yeah, Neil deGrasse said a philosophy quote to Terrence: "When you think you're the smartest person in the room, switch rooms. I know you like philosophy." Empire, that's what it was. Yeah, Mullen Fern, Neil deGrasse Tyson, I don't take seriously on philosophy because he shitted on philosophy a long time ago, and he got called out by a bunch of professional philosophers. On top of that, a lot of people called out the fact that as much as he hates philosophy, particularly philosophy of science, a lot of physicists hate philosophy of science. That's a whole discussion in itself. But for the fact that he dislikes philosophy, particularly philosophy of science, he always tries to talk in a very fortune cookie way when he's explaining scientific things. So it just, I don't take him seriously. Like you dislike philosophy, but then you want to sound like a philosopher, but you want to sound like a person's interpretation of a philosopher who's never taken philosophy. So that's why I said Tyson can sometimes go jump in a lake. Um, but in any case, guys, I'm gonna go. It's late, and the later it gets, the more trolls aggregate. So I'm gonna um, let you guys go for now. All right, but appreciate it. Similar friend said he's a kind of Sesame Street for astrophysicist. I mean, he's kind of took on the reins of Carl Sagan, but Carl Sagan wasn't as Carl Sagan just wasn't as annoying as Neil deGrasse Tyson was. Yeah, I'll be on tomorrow, Eric, but it's gonna be early. I'm not gonna be up this late. I'm not gonna do like late night streams anymore. But I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. If you got any questions, you can leave it in the comments once as soon as this is uploaded. Thank you.